What's up, everybody? How you guys doing? Welcome back to another Content is King episode. Now, today what we're going to be talking about is Patreon and other subscribing services that are outside of the platform that you're streaming on. We're going to talk about why you might want to consider it, how you could incorporate it, what kind of contents that I think that should be on there, as well as some other couple of finer details. So that being said, let's just jump right on into it. So, first, for those of you that don't know, what is Patreon or GameWisp, I'm sure there's other things out there as well. You might be like, well, what are these things? Well, these are subscription sources. Now, you might be like, okay, well, what's that mean for me? Why does a subscription source matter? Well, these subscription sources basically are a way for your supporters to give you monetary support. It's a way for your viewers to interact with you on a different level and in a different atmosphere. Now, why would you maybe want to consider it? Well, maybe that you want to be able to have more options for monetary support with your community. I know on Mixer, they don't have a sub button until you get partnered. So there's no affiliate program. They do have open monetization, but there's nothing that's like a monthly support. Well, this is a way to do monthly support. The other thing is, if you're on Twitch and you don't like the 3 options of tier support there, you can actually have different levels of support that go just for your Patreon. Not to mention, then it's not going through Twitch, so you actually end up getting, I think you have the possibility of getting more money. I don't actually have a Patreon, so I don't run a Patreon yet. I have considered it, but so I don't know the finer things about how payouts fully work. The way I understand is there's probably some small percentage, but it's less than what it is like on Twitch, because I know for affiliates, they only end up getting about half of every single sub for their monetary value. That's just kind of the way that it goes. So the other reason you might want to consider it is if you have a one-on-one service. Take my stuff that I do with some of the stream coaching and tip giving and stuff like that. If I wanted to have that be turned more into a monetary value and be able to go and be like, I'll watch your stream if you're this level tier Patreon person in my Patreon supporters, then I would go and I would be able to do those things. So that's the kind of idea with it. If you provide a one-on-one service, as well as just wanting to give more monetary options for people to do things. It's also a great way to have your supporters pay for the amount of videos that you present every single month. I know a couple people that actually end up doing that. Now, how would you incorporate it? Well, in all honesty, you do it just like merch or a separate platform. You promote it on your stream. You promote it through your social media, and you talk to people about it. You let them know what the benefits are. You let them know what they're getting themselves into, and you let them know why you're doing it, because the why is a really big thing, and it comes across very clear. If you're doing it just for the money aspect, well, your subscribers are going to see that no matter what, and so it's actually going to be kind of hard for you, because a lot of times people don't want to see that you're in it for the money. They want to be like, yeah, okay, I get that he's providing a service and this is optional. He's not going to stop providing the service, but I think it's so good that I should help him. And that's kind of how it is. That's how people go about it. So what are some kind of content that you can find and that I think that you should have with a Patreon that's exclusive, if you will? Well, I know that there's a lot of people that do podcasts. We're going to talk about early access to content. There's also blog posts. And then there's also the other route of like premium snaps or premium Instagrams as well, where people get to see more of your side, maybe more vlogs or something like that. That is more down a premium aspect or, paid. I also know that there are some people that have their premium snaps that are, a little more risque, and that's, their choice to do that as well. I haven't decided to start my, premium snap up yet, because I just don't think anybody's ready to look at my magnificence fully in that way yet. Now, let's talk about incentivizing versus building off your content, because the thing is, incentivizing is great, but the thing is, if you're not giving people actual valuable content, it can actually be seen negatively. And I don't want any of you guys to jump into this and be seen negatively by any part of your community when really you are trying to bring that content and stuff like that. So here's some things I think that maybe would be really good for you to avoid while you're making a Patreon. I think that if it's anything that is like just straight value, like, hey, here's a $20 gift card or anything like that, I think that those should be something that are avoided as exclusives. Now, hear me out. I know there's some people that are going to be like, but Kill, I got to support the people that are supporting me. Yes, but just because somebody can't pay to you doesn't mean they're not supporting you. And I think that's a big thing, as we've seen pop up over the past couple months on streamer Twitter, which streamer Twitter in and of itself is a whole other mess. There's so many people that'll sit there and be like, there was actually a couple of clips that came out of one streamer who was like, I'm giving you this content for free. You should at least pay $5 in a subscription, which is a very bad way to look at it. I think there's a great aspect to valuing your content, but at that same time, it's still like going on a site that is meant for free use. If you don't like it, have a subscribers only. That's how it goes. And you can do that. I think having subscriber only streams, I personally don't like the idea. I've also been very molded by the idea of not having any of my content behind a paywall. Now, does that mean that I don't think that having some of the things like an early access or anything like that is bad? No, I don't. I think, I do the early access with my podcast. Audio listeners get to hear this a week before everybody else. Why? Because I want the audio aspect to go up. I don't give you guys anything visually during these podcasts. I try not to. I try to avoid giving you guys visual things because I want it to be an audio podcast. There's just more people tend to listen to things on YouTube, and that's fine. But I do have the aspect where I have the podcast come out on audio first because I want audio to be picking up. I want people to be getting the value out of it while they're on their commute or something like that. And sometimes listening to a YouTube video isn't the safest thing to do when you're driving around. And so I just want to be able to do that because I think it's a convenience aspect. And so I try to incentivize people to my way of thinking, which isn't necessarily good. And of course there is bad with what I do. But as a business practice, I think that it's a completely fine business practice to have where I say, okay, guys, this comes out a week earlier on this platform. Go support it there if you want it early. If you don't care about getting it early, then it's fine. And that's kind of one way where I think actually having Patreon isn't a bad thing. Let people have early access to something. They get it a couple weeks early. Sweet. That's awesome. I'm really glad that they get it a couple weeks early because they're paying for you to make the content. They're saying, hey, here's $5, $10 a month that I want you to go and make this content for us. And the only thing is I get to see it before everybody else, which also isn't a bad thing because based on their response, you could also edit it and improve it before it actually has a final cut that comes out, which also isn't bad because you could use it as a way to get feedback and actually let your community be more involved with your actual content, which raises your engagement. Now, I did talk about some things that were bad, some things that I think are really good practices, and I have a lot more good practices than bad practices because the thing is, you don't want to just incentivize somebody based on the thing. You want to be able to build up your content and build up your community, and you want to be able to build them up. You don't want to give them something that isn't valuable and isn't just value that only they can get because they're paying you versus the person who has spent 200 hours in your chat, but because they don't have a job, because they're like, say they're in high school, they don't have a job, but they spend every waking moment in your chat and talking because they can't have a Patreon, they shouldn't have access to it. I disagree with that. Just to make that incredibly clear. But things that are okay. I think thank you notes, wonderful thing. Thanking people for supporting you, that's awesome. Things that are meaningless, right? Like they have no purpose behind them. Like a wallpaper. Okay, sweet. One of the things I've thought about is for my Patreon subscribers, if I ever do that, if I make a Patreon for support, or I go back to using GameWisp, I have something that is just a wallpaper. I draw a wallpaper or I construct a wallpaper out of random images I find, and I send it out to them so that way if they want to use it, they can use it. Easy enough. The other thing you can do is also like subscriber games. Okay, guys, tonight subscribers get priority. So if I have subscribers here, we're going to play with them first, and then we'll switch out for other people, which is another great way. It's incentivizing, but it's also giving value back because those people want to play with you. Now, that doesn't mean that you shouldn't have open to every viewer nights either. You should make sure that you have something that's open to all of your viewers because otherwise then it's just unfair. Again, it's some kid that's watched you for 200 hours versus a guy who gave you $5. I don't know. You've got to be careful with relationships because you don't want to break things that are there. That kid's choosing to spend that much time with you. I think it's great to give back to them as well. And having a way that does give back to them, which is why when I was actually doing a lot of giving back to my community at the time, it was based off of my chat interaction, how many points they had in chat, and then how much they had been talking in my Discord. Those two things actually led to if a person got more tickets to be able to go in on a giveaway. And that's how I did it. Now, the other thing is, as I said before, early access to content. I think that is so spectacular to be able to look at somebody and be like, hey, you know what? You get to see my content early because you're supporting me. I really think that that's great. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I think it's a great way to actually sit there and be able to produce content for people that are actually enjoying and loving what you do. Sorry, I was trying to look at the time because I don't have a good timer up. Now, the other thing that it makes it great is like promoting a service that you do. Let's say, again, stream coaching. Now, that's great. You help people out one-on-one. Have a Patreon so that way you're getting paid for the work you're doing. Oh, you're helping look at somebody's stuff, or you're like social managing, helping them out, or even editing or anything like that. You're editing a clip for them. Small things like that you're doing that are one-on-one services that are of value that you should be paid for. Those are things that you do that do matter. And that shouldn't be something that doesn't sit there, right? So if it is something that you give away for a one-on-one aspect, then you should be able to do that. That's in my opinion. The other thing is you can use it to actually support the amount of content that comes out in a month. So if you have more money coming in, if you have somebody that's paying on a higher tier, they're paying for more videos to come out. And so it helps you to make sure, here's the thing, you're incentivizing them with more content, but they're incentivizing you with supporting you. So they're willing to pay more to get more content out of you per month. Because let's say you post one video a month. Well, they really want you to post two. Well, you're like, I can't justify it because I have to spend so much time doing this. If you let them support you monetarily through something like Patreon or GameWisp, that gives you a tier of sub that says, hey, I think that you should do this, and I'm willing to pay you for the amount of time that I know it's going to take to produce that video. Now, with that, you also have to be careful because it might not be fair to charge every single person of that tier $20 for the extra video, because you're like, well, it's $20 because that's going to be $20 per video that they do, and I'm already giving one for free, so the second one would be extra. But you have to be careful because, like, yeah, you might take 2, 3, 4 hours to produce a video, but it's also hard because there's no real great, like, minimum wage, if you will. And just because you spend a lot of time on it, and I might get flack for this, because your time is worth something, but you might get monetary value in a different way. You might get more subs, you might get more ad revenue, anything like that. Plus, if you have multiple people that are supporting you, then it kind of helps out with that because you're spending that much time on a group that's paying for something. So if you're like, oh, $50 for an extra video, that might seem steep because, you know, I don't know. I guess it sounds weird to say and probably seems kind of rude and stuff like that, but I just think you have to be able to properly value your content with how much people are coming in and doing that. And not trying to gouge people to give out more of your content. Not saying that they shouldn't have the option to support you further. I'm just saying that your intent behind it should be of something that's fair, because maybe you're just having to put in an extra little bit of work. And if you have 6 or 7 people that are giving you $10 a month versus nobody that's giving you 50, well, then I think that's pretty easy to tell you where the business sense is there. Because it's kind of like having an incentive goal, right? So if I make $100 this month on Patreon, I'm going to produce 2 extra videos because they're paying for your time to do that. And it's a group of people paying for your time versus one person paying for a good. I think that's the big thing to look at, is that you don't want to be like treated as one person's paying per one video. But instead it's the collective, your community, that's paying for more, which would be more of a shared price instead of fronting all the money onto one person. Thus making it seem like, yeah, you're only charging $5 per person for an extra video, but you have 20 subs that are doing that. So you're actually getting $100 for that extra video, which actually falls closer into the actual minimum wage that would probably go into making the video, which is better, in my opinion. But that shows that your community wants to support it, versus like one person, I guess. And not that one person shouldn't have the option to do that. I'm just I don't know. I guess the more I talk, the more I feel like I'm being terrible and I'm giving a bad hot take. But I also don't think it is a bad hot take. I think it's a very good hot take to have, is to be careful of not trying to gouge somebody to watch your content. Because there are people that are very supportive that can't give monetarily as well. Which there is that. Now, now that I don't know, maybe I'm in a hole with that one. And you know what? I'm okay with it. There's plenty of things that I'm going to say here, and not everybody has to agree. Just as long as everybody's respectful, then that's all that matters, right? So if you guys don't like anything I say, talk to me in the comments, shoot me a tweet, shoot me a DM. I will gladly have a conversation with you on anything that we talk about. Gladly will. As long as it's a conversation and not an argument. Because that doesn't build anything for anybody, right? So the other things I would say are like daily quips, right? So another thing that's like a daily motivation. Oh, hey, my subscribers get a Monday motivation video from me. That's great. You know, yeah, I could see where some people will be like, well, shouldn't you give that to everybody? But at the same time, I also understand being like, hey, you know, you guys are giving me a little extra. Let me give you something that's a little extra. There's also like giving tips like, oh, hey guys, here's a hot, quick tip that I thought about while I was driving in my car. I'm sharing it with my Patreon. It's a great way to incentivize it. They're getting a little bit more tips that maybe these are tips and ideas that you're talking about while you're fleshing out something for a podcast. So you're throwing out little bits and they're getting like little trailer, little teasers, something that isn't really super important, but it's helpful. And some people might really want that. The other thing is like 15-second game reviews, giving a 15-second weapon review, giving 15-second makeup review, giving something that's a short little quip that doesn't take a lot of your time, but you can get it out there and you can show people and talk to them about what you think and giving them your opinions on stuff like that. Which I think is incredibly good to do. I think having a lot of those things are amazing to do and are actually very beneficial to not only you, but your community. And I think that's probably where I'm going to kind of call it for today. Again, if you didn't like any of my takes on anything, please talk to me. Like, I'd love to have a conversation about it. And maybe I'll revisit this video after I have some more time, or I make my own, or I talk to other content creators. Because the thing is, a lot of these things are still changing. And yeah, I don't know everything, but this is how I feel about it at this moment in time. Now, just to let you guys know, again, just as a little bit of wrap up, what we talked about was Patreon style of support. So that means subscriber bases like Patreon or GameWisp. We talked about how you could incorporate it into your stream, what kind of content you could kind of do for that, good practices versus bad practices, and the like. I hope it was helpful for you all. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I know this is a little bit of a shorter podcast. Please make sure you guys like it, share it, subscribe, comment, whatever it is that you do on whatever platform you're on. That all being said, I hope you guys have a great and amazing day, and I will see you all next time. Adios.